July 2023 video horoscopes for the 12 signs with me, Lada, from Astrolada.com. I'm so excited. July, we have some of the most karmic configuration in the sky. Pluto, which is considered the planet that governs the evolution of the soul and the evolutionary path, and the most karmic and fatal and fated events will square the karmic nodes, which are considered the north node is the true north of the soul, the new karma soul has to create. The south node is the past karma soul has to create. So some very pivotal fated karmic events will happen, like the universe is no longer waiting for you to make up your mind. It's giving you consequences of your actions and is realigning you to the path that is most appropriate for your soul, whether you're ready or no. So some events that I'll say for each sign what these events will be will trigger a specific big consciousness shift and realigning of your karmic direction and the karmic path in life for your soul during the next month, July and into August. And we'll speak what events this can be for each one of you. But something pivotal, very important, is happening, guys. And Venus is turning retrograde, but helping this process with a trine. So I'm very excited for this month. And before I start, Nikola Stojanovic, my past teacher, the late Nikola Stojanovic, his books are still not out. His daughter is trying to publish them. He's the most genius astrologist who ever lived. But we're releasing all his courses, 9 courses, for a discounted price, or you can choose just 3 of his courses in a package and get them. This is part of my Lada's Top Picks that continues the whole till October 2023, where I recommend you the best astrology courses and the themes. And Nikola Stojanovic is for everything. I mean, if you want to do astrology like a magician, like a psychic almost, check out those courses. I cannot recommend them enough. And of course, I do Q&A live once per month for each group till October. If you have questions for every new package of course, I recommend. So thank you. Let's begin July. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, July 2023. Scorpio, it's an important and big month. Many of you might be very happy to hear that, but the nodes, the karmic nodes of the moon are leaving your sign, the south node in particular, which tends to have a bit of a weakening influence on the ego, even on the health, while it's in your sign, and it's been there for almost 2 years, because eclipses have been happening in Scorpio for 2 years with the south node there. And the south node always carries some energy of sacrifice, of letting go, of learning spiritual lessons by loss or by humbling the ego. But one good news, is that your ego was humbled a lot in the last year and a half with the south node transiting your sign. Some big pivotal events also happen when the south node is in your sign. Fated, a bit shaky, but thankfully, or some of you might want more of that energy, but I would say things calm down more for you now with the nodes moving away, not directly affecting you, moving into your 12th and your 6th house in particular. So the very big shaking events that sometimes feel fated and fatal you're safe from those now when the nodes are moving away from your sign, and things will calm down a bit, but they still will give you some other karmic lessons in other areas, and they're moving into the axis of the 6th and the 12th house. So the north node, wherever the north node goes, this is where people become most focused and they're more passionate about a bit, develop fascination with that area. And in the 6th house, this can be, for example, can become very focused on their career, on their work. That's a good thing, they can be very throw themselves into work, get excited, but north node likes to experiment, to try new things. So for some of you, it can be a sign that there will be a change of over. I cannot tell you if it's in July. There's a strong activation in July, but it might be sometime over the next year and a half, change of employment. That's one way it can play out, because you want to experiment, you want to try something new, you want to try new opportunities. The north node likes to take risks and to try new things, even try into a new field of employment and career that is quite different than anything you've done before. Or you might want to change and shake up the environment around you in your office, or maybe something in the circumstances in your office if you're employed changes. For example, they introduce North Node is always about modernization, always about anything to do with new technologies and digitalization, and you have to catch up, and you have to, be. And I think because North Node gives passion and excitement about that, so they might be like, you wanna, or if you have your own business, you might want to digitalize it. You might want to make it more, bring it up to technological standards, to introduce new things, new technologies in it as well. I remember when I was having a North Node in the 6th house from my ascendant, I threw myself in work. Even though I had small children, I was working way more than I work now with 2 small babies. That was crazy. Oh my God. How did I do that? But I was passionate about my work. I still am. And I did a lot of changes and a lot of changes of my schedule. So, and they can be quite ambitious changes as well, especially if you're self-employed, you have your own business. The North Node will shift things there. It wants to do things faster, or it wants to focus on the most important things, or it wants to do the most glamorous and most profitable things, for example. So changes things around. But if you have employees, 6th house also rules that the North Node can make you more ambitious. Hiring, I hired for the first time when the North Node was there, help for me. I've never had before that. I was doing everything alone. I had like 30 partners, but they were not doing my administrative work. They were not. I was doing all the answering of emails, everything, absolutely everything, posts. So that's when I hired for the first time 2 people to help me. So it can make you ambitious to expand your business, to hire new people, to do more, work for you. It might not need to last forever. It might be just a temporary thing, because with the North Node, there is no guarantee that what you build lasts longer, but it definitely makes you see things from a different perspective. And you might be involved more in the next year and a half with hiring more people, nannies, people, contractors, or just hiring someone to help you around, or hiring, and so on. The 6th house is also health. For some people, it can play out that they get very passionate about working out, exploring any kind of self-medicating substances, becoming, passionate about nutrition, health, which is the nightmare of most doctors. They don't like people doing their own researches and so on. But with the North Node there, you can become very like, I don't care, I'm passionate about that, about herbs, diets, detoxes, or just throw yourself into research of health and such kind of, 6th house can be agriculture as well, sustainability, anything about maintaining your life and nutrition and agriculture and so on, gardening as well. It might be passion and interest in those activities. And because the North Node will be in Aries, a very entrepreneurial and active planet, of course, I think a lot of you might get very active about their health, Scorpios. Like, you might get physically active. That's another Aries. Aries is another Mars-ruled sign that activates, and whenever anything activates Aries, you resonate with it. So it will feel, even in Vedic astrology, there is a saying, if something is in Aries, it's as if it's in Scorpio as well. So after this kind of weakening influence of the South Node in your sign, which is empties the ego, even weakens sometimes the body, makes you take a step back. Now this way more energizing North Node energy is coming into your life, which is North Node feels like spring, like awakening of juices, of desires. And especially they'll be focused towards career, achievement for you, health even, and so on. Taking care of problems, fixing your material circumstances. And you can get a lot done during that time. Well, the South Node will be in your 12th house for a year and a half. What is it? 12th house is endings, some kind of karmic past lives, past memories that we've buried and we've forgotten. when the South Node transits there, it opens doors to invisible realms. The South Node is very spiritual influence. It sucks up like a black hole things. No, it's like the white hole that excretes, sorry. And it's definitely, that can be a time when some of you might have access to memories they have forgotten on the spiritual level from past lifetimes or from early childhood. Sometimes can be very healing to work with psychologists and to release past traumas. Because 12th house is where a lot of buried skeletons or shadow work happens, right below the subconscious, and the South Node does not block it. The South Node actually opens it more, that you can become more psychic or more some feelings and images that you're not sure where they're coming from that come to the surface of you. It might be interesting to explore them, whether through astrology or whether through psychology with someone, or shaman, or so on. And they might be, I've seen people often have a lot of spiritual progress when the South Node is in the 12th house. Usually the South Node tends to empty and lower the interest in that area of life, but the South Node has very strong affinity with the 12th house as an energy of spiritual, both the spiritual energies. So even without making an effort, it happens that when the South Node transits the 12th house, there is a release and moksha. Moksha is liberation. Both Ketu, South Node, and the 12th house are moksha, liberation areas of unattachment of the soul, letting go of some of the burden of the soul, not to feel so attached. And so there can be some emotional, releasing some emotionally burdenous feelings, some emotionally painful or traumatic or blocking feelings that you release, and they can be sometimes even actual liberation when one gets released from prison or from some psychological prison or even addiction, or because there is this two influences of liberation, that are happening in this 12th house of. And so I'm wishing for some of you, this freedom, but also it allows you then to get focused on the worldly things of the 6th house. Getting care of business, that's what the 6th house, taking care of business, solving your life problems with your intelligence, with your own skills, with your own cleverness and expertise, getting things done, getting things solved, fixing problems, all the material things. So because in order for you to be able to do that, you have to be liberated from some psychological, mental, or emotional prison of your own, which the South Node can do. All right. Then another big thing is that Pluto will be squaring the whole month, the South Node and the North Node, the whole July and into August. So the two planets of karma, not planets, points, the axis of karma that indicates karmic developments and fated events, by the most fated planet and karmic planet, Pluto, squared. So the three most karmic points in the horoscope are interacting in July in a challenging aspect, but the square always manifests. The square, it's kind of, Pluto will be the pebble that turns the cart and changes the direction of the train, the rails that derails the train into the right karmic path, though. Even if it feels like a crisis, like a surprise, like shock, this is the right karmic path to go for the evolution of your soul. Even if it feels a bit fatal with Pluto. And it's definitely something can shift in your mind, something can shift in your everyday reality, because 3rd house is your everyday reality, and it's affecting the 6th house of your routines again. It's affecting all the 6th, the 3rd, and the 12th houses. And of course, the opposite always, even there is no planet there, is activated. These are the houses of way of thinking and consciousness level. So something can tip there, something can shift there in your perception of reality, in your interactions on everyday level. Some switch, like a switch is turned or on or off in your mind that makes you see things differently, and it might be triggered by some crisis situation that tips the point. But definitely your everyday life and routines can be more unexpected, can create some tension for you. Maybe like you have certain plan, but something else happens, because these are, you know, 6th, 3rd houses that are activated. They have everyday reality, interactions with others. It will change, but that is the right path. Even it's a square, this is something you have to go through. When Pluto's, any planet squares the nodes, it's called the planet of the skipped step. Pluto is this planet from the 3rd house now. There is a skip step that you're making up on, and that can realign you on the right karmic path. And it might be connected to you learning something new, or acquiring some knowledge or skill, taking some course or class, which is the 3rd house, some training, some skill that will correct that skip step on your karmic path and shift your perspective. Or it might be a person, even someone from the past that you reconnect with, because Pluto is also moving retrograde. Might be past lifetime that you don't remember, but someone that you meet that's very influential for your life. And we're talking more like a friend, acquaintance, teammate, workmate, you know, that can realign you, and that there is this skip step or unresolved karmic matter that you have to complete with. Maybe you didn't forgive someone from your school, or from your childhood, or a sibling or a relative. 3rd house rules all of those people in your everyday life. Or maybe a colleague or friend, unresolved situation that this Pluto there makes you realign and this make up on the skip step, so you're realigned to the right karmic path, and such person can direct you to the right karmic direction as well. Or it might be some kind of change of environment, change of that's happening if the people in your everyday environment. Might be a skip step that you have to cut off someone, you know, someone that has been toxic in your life, and Pluto is calling you now to do that when it's squaring the nodes. If you want to progress further, there is someone in your environment that might be toxic that you have to remove, and that will kind of liberate you, realign you on the right path. And even if there is some stressful daily exchanges and communications with others that feel intense, and or some projects that you're working on, the 3rd house can be a mental project, it can be working in a team environment on some business or whatever, on some papers or documents, or anything marketing, business is 3rd house as well. There might be some skip step that you have to make up on, something to do with a website or with certain communication or certain documents or papers, that there is a skip step that might feel stressful for you, but you have to make up for. Okay, I'm talking too much about that. Let's see. So it can play out in many different ways. I can talk about this aspect for days, but we don't have that time, because there's so many different ways it can play out that I see in my head. But anything that there might be, as I said, this karmic combination that's happening, it can affect your 12th house. So something psychological from the past, that can be a tipping stone that can change and shift. Something connected to buried memories, or even to inner subconscious demons, addictions, psychological attachments, self-sabotaging behaviors, that can be the tipping stone, and that can be the tipping point, and that can change and karmically realign you in a new direction. Or it can be connected to your job, your work, your career, your employment, or your health and your health habits. That is the tipping point that shifts, that changes, to help you realign. And that's not waiting. The universe is not waiting for you to make up your mind anymore. It's pushing you in this direction. You have no choice. It's a bit like final, whether it's to change something in your health or whatever. The 6th house there, or the 3rd house that we talked about, everyday communication, people in your environment. It might be triggered by relatives, siblings, and so on, that you make a big change there. Okay, what is helping you throughout all this is Venus making a trine to this North Node in the 6th house the whole month, Venus from your 10th house, and sextile to the South Node in your 12th house. So what does it mean? Maybe a person, an influential woman in authority can help you, or an older woman, or one of your parents can help you through this period and support you, or taking advice from an experience. Whatever is happening this month, it will be very likely due to this karmic configuration here. But Venus will seek advice of an older or more experienced person not necessarily older, might be more experienced, that is benevolent for you, that will help you. Authority figure or parental figure or even institution, people in power can help you in some way. So in some way as well, Venus also is turning retrograde from the 22nd of July. Will be retrograde the whole August into September. Actually, that's very good for your career. Whatever it is, even when Venus is retrograde, Venus is a benefic planet. When it's retrograde, you might reconsider certain directions of your career. And it's very much in line with the changes the North Node is trying to do again into one of the other houses of work, employment, career. And Venus here, it can give you an alternative perspective of, because a retrograde planet, you see things differently about your career in this case, in the 10th house, or about your worldly responsibilities, or what is expected from you. You can have a chance to work on your reputation, public or even physical appearance, because the 10th house is the most visible house. So that's not, even if you're not in a career, it's your public image, how you look, you know, how you're seen in society. You might have a chance to work on, to correct, to improve, to realign with your current vibration, your image, your career, your worth, self-worth. And when Venus turns direct, possibly to be more respected, to be more appreciated, to be more seen in your field of work. And as well, definitely it will make you gentler, calmer. Venus presiding over there, maybe, you know, stabilizing the whole, whatever changes are happening in your life. And in some more extreme cases, one might reconsider changing the direction of their career, swapping jobs, or maybe an odd career opportunity can come up to you. Or maybe you had a business plan or career plan or structure or idea that came to you months or years ago, and now Venus goes retrograde in your 10th house and you come back to it and start implementing it. Or maybe you're working on some plan or work, business, and you're kind of rethinking the structure of it, or editing, fixing. And especially if you're in any Venusian fields where it is entertainment, beauty, art, music, relationships of any sorts, negotiating, contract making, counseling, these are all Venusian careers. Very likely that will be very good for your professional realization, because retrograde Venus in the 10th house of career makes you work harder, but you get much better results after that. And of course, there can be some delays. And for you, Scorpio rising, in regards to your career situation, some need to renegotiate, to recontract, or to re-examine, to maybe change, edit, fix, make better. No one loves to, you know, to see like, okay, this doesn't work so well this way, let's change it. But the final result will be wonderful and beautiful, like Venus is, and more pleasing. So there you go, Scorpio. Hope that was helpful for you.